Picture this. You're 24. You finally decide to get serious about money. You stop wasting cash on random stuff online, cut back on food delivery, maybe stop buying things at 2 a.m. just because TikTok convinced you it would change your life. And for the first time ever, you start investing properly. Every paycheck, money starts going into ETFs, maybe a few stocks, maybe your retirement account too. And honestly, it feels good, like you're finally becoming one of those people who actually has their future together. Then a few months later the market drops, and suddenly the same app that was making you feel smart every morning is now covered in red numbers. Your portfolio's down $4,000, maybe 6. And now you're staring at your phone wondering if you completely screwed this up. What's crazy is, this is usually the exact moment people make the biggest investing mistake of their entire 20s. Not because they're dumb, because what feels safe emotionally in the moment is usually the thing that hurts them financially long term. And the wild part is, millions of people are doing this right now without even realizing it. See, everybody talks about starting early, but nobody really talks about what happens emotionally after you start investing. That's the part that catches people off guard. Today I want to talk about the investing mistakes that quietly destroy people in their 20s, especially smart people trying to do the right thing. Because most of the time it's not bad investments ruining people. It's panic, it's impatience, it's constantly changing direction every time the market gets uncomfortable. This is wealth theory, where we try to understand how money actually works in real life, not just the motivational finance quotes people repost online. And honestly, one of these mistakes almost made me pull my own money out of the market a few years ago. But before we get into it, if you like these kinds of real conversations about money and investing, hit subscribe. Alright, the first mistake is probably the biggest one. People in their 20s keep trying to build the perfect investing strategy, and social media makes this so much worse. You open YouTube and one person says index funds are the only smart investment. Another says real estate is the path to freedom. Another guy says the stock market's about to crash and crypto's the future. So now you've got a 23-year-old with $3,000 invested rebuilding their portfolio every 2 weeks like they run a hedge fund. And the funny thing is, it actually feels responsible while you're doing it, because you think you're learning. But most of the time you're just overwhelming yourself with too much information. Investing in your 20s is honestly a lot like going to the gym. The people constantly switching workout plans, buying new supplements every week, and chasing every trend usually quit. Meanwhile, the boring guy who just keeps showing up quietly gets results over time. That's investing. Boring usually wins. But people hate boring because boring doesn't give instant dopamine. And this is where things start getting dangerous. Because once the market drops, people suddenly stop acting long-term. One rough month and long-term investors magically turn into short-term traders. You see it every single time. People say they're investing for the next 20 years, then panic after 2 bad weeks. And honestly, I get it. Watching your money go backwards feels terrible. Your brain treats investing losses differently from normal spending. Like if you slowly waste $2,000 on takeout, subscriptions, random Amazon purchases, and nights out, you barely notice. But watching your portfolio drop $2,000 in a week, that hurts instantly. Because the market forces you to see the damage all at once. That's why so many people quit during completely normal market dips. Not because their strategy was bad, but because emotionally they weren't prepared for volatility. And here's the weird part nobody explains properly. Your 20s are actually the best time to survive investing mistakes. You've got time. That's the advantage. But young investors act like every market drop is permanent. Meanwhile, older investors with way less recovery time are often taking bigger risks because they feel financially behind. People massively underestimate how powerful time actually is. Compounding is one of those things that sounds boring until you really understand it. At first it barely feels like anything's happening. You invest for a year and your portfolio still looks small. 2 years later it still doesn't feel life-changing. That's the phase where most people quit, because they compare themselves to friends driving finance trucks and posting vacation photos in Miami while they're sitting there buying index funds like a responsible adult. Long-term investing looks boring at the beginning because the rewards are delayed. But delayed doesn't mean small. That's the difference. And another huge mistake people make in their 20s is confusing risk with intelligence. This happens every bull market. Suddenly everybody feels like a genius because every investment keeps going up. People make money during easy market conditions and start thinking they cracked the code to wealth. But honestly, a rising market can make almost anybody look smart temporarily. Then the market flips and suddenly all the fake experts disappear overnight. You saw it with crypto. You saw it with meme stocks. You see it constantly. Bull markets create confidence. Bear markets expose reality. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying avoid risk completely. That's impossible if you want to build wealth. But there's a difference between taking smart risks and gambling because you're bored. The goal isn't avoiding volatility. The goal is surviving it. That's the real game. Because the people who usually win long-term aren't the people making the flashiest moves. It's the people who stay invested long enough for compounding to actually work. And honestly, investing becomes way easier once you realize it's more about behavior than intelligence. Most people already know what they should do. Invest consistently. Don't panic sell. Think long term. The hard part is doing those things while your emotions are screaming at you to do the opposite. So here's what actually helps. First, automate your investing. Seriously, don't rely on motivation. Motivation disappears the second life gets stressful. Set up automatic investments every paycheck and remove the decision completely. Because when investing becomes automatic, you stop negotiating with yourself every month. Second, simplify your portfolio. You do not need 12 ETFs, crypto, AI stocks, gold exposure, options trading, and for investing apps just because Finance TikTok told you to diversify. Too much complexity usually creates emotional chaos. Simple strategies are easier to stick with during rough markets. Third, build emergency savings before going super aggressive with investing. This is the mistake a lot of people ignore. They invest everything, then real life happens. Car repairs, rent increases, losing a job, medical bills, and suddenly they're forced to sell investments at the worst possible time just to survive financially. That's not an investing problem. That's a cash flow problem. Emergency savings protect your investments from your real life. And one more thing people seriously need to stop doing: checking their portfolio 15 times a day. Investing apps are basically designed like slot machines now. Green numbers make you excited. Red numbers ruin your mood. People start attaching their self-worth to market movements. That's unhealthy. Wealth is usually built quietly, not dramatically. Most wealthy people didn't build their future from one magical investment. They built it from consistent behavior repeated for years. That's the boring truth nobody online really wants to sell you because it's not exciting enough. And we should probably talk about lifestyle inflation too, because this one quietly destroys people financially. You get a raise, and suddenly your spending rises with it. Better apartment, bigger car payment, more eating out, more subscriptions. So even though you're making more money every year, your investing barely increases. That's why some people with high incomes still feel broke. Their lifestyle expands faster than their wealth. And social media makes this even worse because everybody's trying to look rich before they actually are rich. That pressure messes with people badly in their 20s. But honestly, most investing mistakes at this age aren't mathematical. They're emotional. People panic too quickly, compare too much, change direction constantly, expect results too early, and the market punishes emotional instability harder than lack of knowledge sometimes. That's why calm investors usually outperform emotional investors long term. So let's keep this simple. You do not need to become a finance genius in your 20s. You just need to avoid destroying your own progress. Invest consistently, stay patient, keep learning, don't panic every time the market gets ugly, and stop expecting your portfolio to make you rich overnight, because your 20s probably won't be the decade where investing makes you wealthy. It's the decade where you build the habits that eventually make you wealthy. That's the real game. Anyway, next time the market drops and everybody online starts panicking, just remember, volatility feels dangerous in the moment, but for long-term investors, panic is usually more expensive than patience. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.